everybody has a YouTube video of what is enlightenment. So I thought, well, maybe I'll do one of those. And there's a favorite stanza of mine, and that the Buddha is credited with. And it says, strive and stop the stream. Discard sense desires. Having seen the ceasing of all mental formations, you are a knower of the unmade. And I don't know, it kind of reminds me of when we were talking last time about Satipatthana. You know, these, pardon me? Oh, a lot of these things are sort of, these are translated 100 years ago, or in archaic language, you know, or Old English, or done for poetic purposes. And I was at Island Hermitage. I was a monk, and Reverend Nyanananda was also there. And I recommend his book, Concept and Reality. Really good book. But anyways, I went over to his cottage, and when I got there, he's like, oh, really, like, kind of excited, you know, and he said, oh, I just figured out something. He was a professor of Pali. And before he became a monk. And he had just been working on that stanza that I just spoke. And he was all excited because he had figured out what it meant. Or it had taken on new meaning for him anyways. But if his Pali translations, I mean, he's probably the best. And he never did, you know, like books of suttas or Dhammapada or anything like that. But his knowledge of Pali was, and it wasn't just scholarly knowledge, it was like really insightful knowledge. Anyway, strive and stop the stream. What does that mean? Strive and stop the stream. What stream? The stream of consciousness. Discard sense desires. Now, does that mean give up candy bars and theme parks and going to the movies and everything? It means the desire for sensory experience. Having seen the cessation or the ceasing of all mental phenomena. In other words, having experienced the stilling of the mind, the stopping of the mind, you are a knower of the unmade being nibbana. But discard sense desires. Desire, I've said this many times, but desire is the fuel that makes, like, we see and hear and think and do all those things because of desire to see and hear and think and feel and all that. Desire is the fuel. It provides the energy for that to happen. I mean, you know, second noble truth. What is the cause of suffering? Desire. So if you bring the desire level down through, well, a lot of different ways, but the best way is through mindfulness meditation. And mindfulness meditation, when you succeed at it, it causes you to lose desire for sensual experience because you see it's painful and impermanent and not yours. So why want it? Well, when the desire level falls below a certain threshold, the mind doesn't go to the senses. There's not enough juice. There's not enough fuel to make that happen. That's nibbana, cessation. That's how it happens, is desire goes away as a process, and the mind just doesn't go to any of the senses, it goes to nibbana. So to go to the beginning, that's sort of enlightenment is purification. The 7 stages of purification: purification of virtue, purification of view, etc. And what can be purified? The mind. And what are the impurities? There's only 3 of them: greed, hatred, and ignorance. And when you purify the mind of those things, you get enlightened. But that's, I've heard of a number of incidents of gurus and teachers and things that did unwholesome things. And their followers say, they were enlightened, but they had psychological issues that were unresolved or something like that. And that's why they did these terrible things, that doesn't go together. Enlightenment is purification. You can't get enlightened without getting purified. And purification of virtue or morality, that's one of the big purifications. And what happens when someone gets stream enterer? Well, they're purified to the extent that there's a whole bunch of things they won't do. And the things they won't do are the things that lead to a lower birth. As an unfortunate human or as an animal or as a ghost, they can't go there anymore because they're purified to that extent. Second path, Sakadagami, greed and hatred are cut in half. Wow, in half. That's big. But that's purification. Those unwholesome states are cut in half. Third stage, hatred ceases entirely, and desire, greed is down to really not much, a little bit. Fourth stage, arhatship, all three of those, greed, hatred, and ignorance, gone completely. That's what enlightenment is purification of the mind. When you purify the mind of ignorance, wisdom is the thing that purifies the mind of ignorance. So wisdom grows and ignorance goes away. And that's one of the reasons why it takes 4 stages. It's a big job. Now, some people do all 4 stages in the time of the Buddha, especially in a minute. Some here nowadays will do the first 2 stages in like 2 weeks. Third stage is very rare, very, very, very rare. There's not a lot of information about Anagami or Arahant nowadays. Used to be a lot of information, but not so much anymore. And there's almost nothing describe. Everything, all the meditation manuals and stuff really go up to first path. And then they kind of say, oh, and then the third path, the other paths are gotten in the same way. They are gotten in the same way. You pursue the same development of insight. You travel the same core, path to Nibbana each time. But they're very different. It's kind of misleading. Like the way that you meditate to become a stream enterer technically is the way you meditate to become a Sakadagami, but it's all different. The conditions are different. The person's wisdom is different. Their meditation is more developed. There are other qualities to be developed. You get first path mostly on faith. Second path, I'm kind of forgetting right now. Second path is faith also, but third path is concentration. The main feature that you have to develop to get third path is concentration. Fourth path is wisdom, has to be developed. So it's different. Do they travel the same path? Yes, but it's very different. But to purify a mind of greed, hatred, and ignorance, boy, that's a big deal, When people talk about, how amazing these people must be and everything. And they are, but also it's kind of like you have a septic tank full of poop, which is a normal unawakened mind, filled with defilement. Well, a stream enterer takes a quarter of the poop out of the septic tank. So that's good. Sakadagami digs another quarter out, so there's only half, the tank's only got half full of poop. And third, you get the idea. Third stage is 3/4 empty. And then arhat, no poop in the septic tank. It's all cleaned out and hosed out and rinsed and done. And that's another way of looking at it. I mean, the glorious way is, oh, they've awakened, and it's true. I mean, they've awakened to these higher truths, and their virtue is elevated and all that, and that's true too. But you're starting with with a human being, with just an ordinary mind that's all full of garbage, and so. But an enlightened person has just pursued mindfulness and other things, but mindfulness is what gets you to nibbana, and first path, when a person gets first path, they say he glimpses nibbana. Well, glimpse, like, what does that mean? Sees it in the distance briefly or something? No, he experiences it. He experiences nibbana really briefly, though, because his desire can't stay away from the senses very long. It wants to go back, but it gives up long enough to get a glimpse, to get a brief experience of nibbana, of cessation. And that's transformative, And basically, the whole process is, how much cessation can you take? Can you get back there again? That would be second path. People with first, second, third, and fourth path can experience what's called fruition attainment, which is nibbana. They re-experience the nibbana that they experienced at Magapala, and some can do it for seconds, some for minutes, some for half an hour, some for hours, and what they're doing is getting, they go into cessation for, like I say, seconds or minutes or hours or however long they're capable of doing it, and what they're doing is getting used to, accustomed to cessation, because that's not what the mind is acclimated to. The mind has been rushing nonstop, busy the whole time for eons. It's used to being busy and occupied and everything, and to have it just stop, it's just not, it's contrary to human nature. So as people work their way up the first, second, third, fourth paths, they're learning to get comfortable with cessation, basically. And that's it. That's what enlightenment is all about, is getting comfortable with cessation, with peace and quiet, basically, and complete relaxation and freedom and unbounded, there's all kinds of words to describe nibbana, but emptiness, that kind of might have a negative connotation or something, but people that have experienced emptiness, it's the greatest thing they've ever experienced in their life. It may not sound that good, but the experience, everybody likes it. I haven't heard anybody that didn't like nibbana if they'd experienced nibbana, So, I mean, there's other teachings and schools and religions and things, none of them teach nibbana. They all are teaching mostly some level of concentration. And if they're really into concentration, like some kind of Hindu yoga things, God consciousness or merging with God, or they have all these different samadhis, they call them. And they're just higher and, they're just more and more subtle stages of concentration. And they're nice, and they feel good, and they tranquilize a person. All they do, though, is suppress greed, hatred, and ignorance. Suppress not in a bad way. I mean, greed, hatred, and ignorance don't arise when you're that concentrated. So it feels like really good, but they can arise easily again. The thing about nibbana is it exterminates those things. Once you cut them off, they're gone. Can't come back. Can't arise again. That's the wonderful thing about nibbana, is that, and they talk about, cuts off these fetters. The attainment cuts off these fetters. And then, it's neat because once you get there, there's no backsliding or not, whatever you've accomplished, that's in the books. It won't come up again. You can't go back. You can't be purified to a certain extent and then get all filthy again. Once you're purified to whatever degree you are, that's done, complete. Which, wow, that's great, So I guess that's about what I wanted to say about it.